I don't think people realize how much more we respect you and believe you and think more highly of you when you share your insecurities and your doubts and your weaknesses and all of the flaws. There is an instant credibility and attractiveness to that because that means we can be ourselves with you and we feel safe with you. Honor's not going to judge me when I sit there and I tell her that I've done the most horrible thing in the world, or I struggle with these kind of thoughts or whatever, because I know Honor has dealt with that too. And she can look me in the eyes and say, "You're going to get through this. You're going to be okay because I lived through that exact same thing."
Welcome to the Honor It podcast. I'm Honor Garrett, your host, and we're here to honor all that is good in the world. We delve into inspiring stories that matter to you with top experts, entrepreneurs, creators, innovators, and pro athletes who are making a difference, impacting lives, and creating positive change. My mission is to inspire women to thrive and build a life and legacy they love no matter what their age. We live life in the game, not on the sidelines. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Heather Parady. Heather is a mental health therapist turned online entrepreneur, and she helps outside the box leaders scale their impact online. She has hosted multiple top ranking shows and conducted over 1,000 interviews to date. Heather's insights have caught the attention of major publications, including Forbes and Pop-Sugar, not to mention she's earned a place of honor on the front of her mom's refrigerator. She's not just smart and insightful, she's also incredibly witty, informative, and entertaining. It is my pleasure to welcome Heather Parady. Welcome, Heather. Excited you're here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And when you said the mom's refrigerator thing, I need to check at Christmas when I go visit because I'm pretty sure I've been replaced by all the grandkids. So I might need to change my bio. I don't know.
I still like it. Well, first of all, I had no idea you were in the mental health space originally, but it makes sense now that I think about it because your content is very insightful. How has your background in psychology really influenced your entrepreneurial approach and the strategies that you use to help others succeed?
It's changed the way I view everything in life because realized everything is an internal game, and there's a reason why we see the world as we see it, why we move the way that we move, and we can trace it all back. And the cool thing about it is when you get in really deep to like the science and our physiology and everything, things can shift and adjust and change. But it usually starts from a place of energy and our intention and the inner work, and not to get too woo on you, but just spirit. So going through that program, studying what I learned, you can't unsee it anymore. I do a lot of tactical work. People usually come to me for tactical advice and information on their online business or storytelling or whatever. But when we get to the root of it in the core, we always end up talking about worth and value and purpose and belonging and does my voice matter in this world and all this stuff. So it's infused in everything I do.
Well, I think about that too, because I've been on this journey of becoming a health coach. And then I realized it's not about weight. And then becoming a life coach and learning NLP and all these different things, realizing that I was a pretty happy person, but not realizing I had issues that I wasn't even looking at, and
Totally.
really being able to kind of embrace who you are. And so I know that your online presence is known for its witty and humorous approach, at least what I see on your social media. Combined with the psychology, like how do you use humor and psychology to engage your audience?
Yeah, I was just sharing this with somebody yesterday about kind of our thing and then our vehicle, right? So we have this thing that we really are passionate about, that we feel like we're called to do. And sometimes you can deliver that thing, whatever it is. Let's say it's helping children through divorce. I don't know. Sometimes we can just hand that over and that message to the world and it works. Sometimes it's helpful to put that message in a vehicle that you can deliver it in a way where people can hear it where they may have not heard it before. So topics like spirituality or psychology or some of this deeper stuff, there's definitely an audience for that. I feel called in this season of my life, because I think calling is seasonal. In this particular season, that I want to bring some of the deeper work and the stuff that's changed my life to more of a audience that's not open to hearing it or never explored it before, or maybe would scroll past when the hook at the beginning is something that doesn't spark their interest. So, how can I be a bridge between folks who've never heard about this stuff and still giving that message I feel like God's given me to give? So, the humor, the storytelling, the hooking it to pop culture and people who look to follow, like Lady Gaga, Pharrell Williams, some of these folks, you hook them in with that and then can share something a little more deeper, if I may, towards the end.
And I sometimes struggle when I'm working with somebody because I do infuse faith into what I do,
Mm-hmm.
but I also really believe in energy. And I think they're not opposite, they all go together.
They validate each other.
And
Mm-hmm.
everything that God created is good, right? And
Right.
so things can be used for the wrong purpose, but if it's the right heart, I think there's a deeper influence in this world that we can't see than what we can,
Totally.
because we're creating our own realities. How do you work with people specifically? I'm sure they come to you for various different projects, but what's an example of what somebody might do if they reached out to you and said, I need help?
Our main offer right now is building out systems and processes for digital products. So you're a service-based provider, you're great at what you do, but all of the tech stuff overwhelms you and all the platforms and all the things. We come in and build everything out for you and then train you on how to do it just to simplify the process. Because I think there's a lot of people out there who are doing incredible work, but they're so scared of all of these flashy beep doop 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 tools and all the different things that they become paralyzed. So I'm a helper. I used to be a therapist. I get it. I work with a lot of helpers and healers and people in the spiritual, mental, emotional space, and I believe in their work wholeheartedly. So we're like their tech right hand. We do all that stuff. Recently, we've started getting into more the storytelling element as well and helping people craft not just their messaging from like landing pages and so forth, but also to how to hook folks in videos and some of the content that they're doing to lead them back to their offer.
Now, you also have a podcast, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and you've
Mm-hmm.
interviewed over 1,000
Mm-hmm.
people. So, can you tell me a particularly memorable guest or interview that significantly impacted you personally?
This is kind of heavy, but it's honest and it's the first thing that came to my mind. So I'm just going to trust that this is where I need to go with this. I'm not going to name names, but I've had 3 guests lose their life to suicide. 3. And the reason I'm bringing this up is on paper, reading their bios, you would never have known that this would have happened because we make so many quick judgments on happiness and success and what things are supposed to look like without realizing that stuff really doesn't mean anything. I will never, ever, ever, ever forget those 3. There were 3 men, good men, kind, doing amazing work in the world. And the sovereignty now of conversations and realizing that what I see on the surface isn't the full picture. It's just rocked my world. So again, I know that's really heavy honor and sorry to maybe bring it as a downer, but I've interviewed a lot of really cool people. A lot of people have done some amazing stuff in this world, and people too who have shifted my mindset around mental health and what the world says is successful and what really matters. And those 3 guys, unfortunately, with the loss of their lives, brought that into really harsh reality for me.
Yes, it is a heavy topic,
Mm-hmm.
but I work with a lot of women who are in their 40s and 50s and they've made it this far in life, but they feel like somehow, what else am I good for? My kids have grown, I've done all the things. what next? And that's what I try to help people with, but I'd love to always get someone else's opinion about it.
Yeah. So I'm 37. I feel like I'm in a weird middle stage where I don't feel like I'm in the later stage of my life. I'm definitely not in the younger stage of my life. I feel like I'm just in this weird middle ground where I think I'm younger than I really am. And also it's so real to me, the reality of about to hit 40 pretty soon. And, the narrative around what does it mean to be a woman in your 40s and 50s and 60s and beyond. And as I am approaching 40, I'm just noticing a lot of negative connotations coming up for me. And I'm thinking, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Because when I really ask myself about when I look at a woman in her 40s and her 50s and her 60s, 70s, I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, no BSing, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I see another side of beauty. I see another side of grace. I see another side of confidence. I see people don't care as much. The women that I know, they don't seem like they care about people's opinions. And I'm like, being, in your 20s and 30s, I was crippled by it, crippled by what people thought of me. So to see in my future and think, wow, look at what can be coming up for me. It's a beautiful thing. So I've been asking myself, I'm like, if that's really what I think, why do I have these negative things in my head as I'm starting to see different lines on my face and I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to be 40 soon and my kids are getting older and they're calling me bruh and I'm entering this weird stage. And I'm realizing it's this weird cultural narrative that has no truth to it, because when you really get down to what people think, most people are thriving and love getting older and are happier if they really let themselves be. And as a younger person, I remember in my 20s seeking so much mentorship from, quote, an older woman. I didn't really have a close relationship with my mom, and I was just constantly seeking it out. And it was really hard for me to find women who believed that I wanted to have a relationship with them. And I know that sounds weird,
Mm.
but they would almost not believe me or kind of be weirded out and stuff. And when I really dug into it, learned that there was a lot of worth issues there of, do I have a voice in this young person's life, etc. I don't think we as women realize how much we all really think of each other
Mhm.
and how much we really respect each other and how much we really yearn for each other, because we're so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And everything that we're projecting out is an internal projection of our own issues of ourselves. Because really, when I look at someone older, I think, yeah, I want to be like that. I can't wait to be that comfortable in my skin and look that beautiful and move through life with that kind of confidence. But maybe that woman doesn't see herself and she doesn't see that real reality.
Well, I think it's a seesaw. I
Mm-hmm.
love being older and I feel like I have so much more confidence, and my where my job is working with older women. My mission is I work with college age students in the
Oh,
church
cool.
and helping them figure out, what do I want to do with my life? And I'm just blown away that there are young people that care about my
They
opinion.
love you, I bet. I bet they
Like
adore
my,
you.
well, my kids do love me, but after a while, they can only take so much, right? And
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
kids voluntarily come over to my house. Maybe they're
I
in
believe
college
it.
and they need food. I don't know. But so, what advice would you give to? I've got three daughters and one son. They're all in their 20s.
Mm.
And they're either senior in college or they're out in their first jobs and they're trying to figure things out. And especially in college, you're comparing, oh, my friend is going to law school. My friend has got a job at the ESPN. My
Mm.
other friend has this. And they think they need to have it figured out. And they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And they get so down on themselves. How would you talk to that young person?
Sharing every way I've ever effed up and being very honest about it. One thing I've noticed about, I'm a millennial. I'm like an elder millennial, and the generation above, is that X?
um,
Is something.
I
I
don't even know what I
I
am, to
don't
be
know.
honest.
I don't know. I think it's X and then I think it's boomer. I
Am
don't
I
know.
a baby boomer? I'm not sure.
I have no idea, but and you tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like the generation that's above me was taught to really hide a lot of their personal stuff, and you don't talk about negative things, you don't talk about, and so here us millennials come in and then Gen Z where we're like overly authentic, you know what I mean? I think it just kind of scares this other generation, which is understandable. These are two different worlds, but I don't think people realize how much more we respect you and believe you and think more highly of you when you share your insecurities and your doubts and your weaknesses and all of the flaws. There is an instant credibility and attractiveness to that, because that means we can be ourselves with you and we feel safe with you. Honor's not going to judge me when I sit there and I tell her that I've done the most horrible thing in the world, or I struggle with these kind of thoughts or whatever, because I know Honor has dealt with that too. And she can look me in the eyes and say, you're going to get through this. You're going to be okay, because I lived through that exact same thing. Withholding all that pain has the reverse effect that a lot of people think it does.
That's interesting, because raising my kids, you want them to be as successful and well adjusted as possible. And so you think about all the things that you did that you don't want to admit to anybody, much less your own kids. Because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to give them license to say, well, you did it, I'm gonna go do it.
I don't think it's licensed at all.
But
I wish,
now I see it.
yeah,
Now I see it.
yeah.
Now that they're a little bit older, I feel like I can really open up to them. And this is such an interesting conversation because it's going differently than I was imagining, but it's beautiful because I think this is what people need to hear.
Can I say one more thing that's
Yeah.
coming up for me? Also, seek out the younger people and be the first one to initiate the relationship. Sometimes younger folks will come to you and be like, "Hey, Honor, whatever, I want to be in a relationship with you." But a lot of them won't, and especially when you grew up motherless or fatherless, uh, there's a deep insecurity around that of belonging and need. And so I think both sides probably feel a little rejection there of like, are they going to want me or do they want me? And I think as we get older and stuff, and I've been trying to take more responsibility of this too, because 20 was 17 years ago for me. Am I proactively being the leader here and seeking these relationships out?
That's really important. And I've had to do that even just with being older and deciding to start a business. My husband's
Mm-hmm.
been in professional sports for our 31 years of marriage, and people are like, you know so many people, why aren't you just reaching out to them? And there's this feeling like maybe I don't want to bother them.
Right.
I don't want them to think that I'm trying to get something from them. But what I tell my kids and what I want people to know is that people want to help.
Yes.
People want to generally help you. Adults love to help younger people. It gives us joy to do that. So I hope that kids would come to me. But you're right. I need to also be proactive and
Mm-hmm.
and reaching out to those that are younger than me and bringing those people up.
And realizing too, their communication style is so different and not taking it personally. One thing, and I'm speaking for Gen Z here, I don't really know. I'm trying to figure it out too. I have a niece, she's 20, and I'm always asking her questions because I'm so confused by the way that they talk. I'm like, what does this mean? Blah, blah, blah. And one of the things I've noticed is there's not a lot of response,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that they didn't listen and they don't care. So
Mhm.
sometimes I'll send messages to her like, I love you, I'm thinking about you or whatever, and you won't hear anything. And that's okay, because it's not like she ignored it. It's she read it, and it's different. It's just a different way of being. Instead of fighting it, realize that if they're quiet, if they aren't super responsive, that doesn't mean that they don't want it. So press in and lean in a little bit more.
So you also emphasize the importance of a heart-centered leadership. How do you explain what this means in your work?
Explaining heart-centered leadership in my work. For me, what I mean by that, there's a persona that I saw that was really, really heavy when I entered into the online space, which was kind of a masculine energy, very dominant bro type vibe, which is cool. Like I have nothing against that. Honestly, I need it half the time to do the things I know I need to do. It serves a beautiful purpose in this world. The other side to that is more of the feminine energy, which brings in a lot of the empathy and heart centeredness and intuition and the other beautiful side that God created. So it's not an either or, it's a yes and. And with our work, we never want to like discount the masculine energy, but also to bring the narrative of the feminine into the conversation of leadership and impact and entrepreneurship and so forth. So, heart centered leadership to me means being really moved by spirit and intuition and listening and paying attention, and sometimes doing the opposite of what you're told to do, or maybe not having the email funnel when it just doesn't feel right for you, even though it on paper seems to be the right thing to do. I think God can, I know that God can move in so many different ways if we would get our hands off the steering wheel and just listen a little bit more.
Yeah. You have an incredible ability to basically address the pink elephant in the room immediately. You go right there. And I think that's such a gift. And you do it in a way that's not, it's not lectury, it's not in your face. It's funny. It's like, yeah, that's me. So,
I really, really appreciate you saying that in the feedback, because that's been something I've just been really wrestling with is how do you, and I'm trying to figure out like where is it where I'm being, and I always come back to female conditioning because I'm just there's so much crap there that I don't know what your experience that I was taught about your voice as a woman, especially because I come from ministry. I used to be in
mhm,
ministry. I left that world, to be honest with you, and it was just a really almost like traumatizing experience for me.
mm,
And then trying to find my voice now post that,
wow.
where you're not being preachy, but also too you're still assertive and not afraid of being direct.
Well, how can people work with you? I'll put all of your information in the show notes and they can find you. But who exactly is that person that you're trying to help?
We service based providers. So we work with therapists, we work with coaches, we work with doctors, dentists, anybody who does a service for a business. They're great at the in person service based work, but they're trying to bring it in a digital format. So a lot of them are building out their first courses or their memberships or whatever. We help with that transition because a lot of them are seeing success in their practice, but they're wanting to remove themselves a little bit and work a little less,
Mhm.
quote, quote, work a little less in their practice
Right.
and move it online. That's what we do. We help bridge that gap. So it's a lot of education. It's a lot of hand holding. And I mean that in a respectful way, because we all have been there and getting them kind of up to date on all the tech stuff.
Well, when you put stuff out there, it's so witty and just very entertaining, but it's also informative. Was that just something that you came up with? Is that just who you are at the core, or you just love humor? How did you come up with that approach?
So that's me to a T. So if we go out and get Mexican, I will sit there and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I was watching The Office the other day, and Steve Carell said this, and then it made me think about this book that I was reading, and what do you want to do with your life?" And like that's just me to a T. I'm constantly there all the time talking about this stuff. I'm obsessed with the personal development world, and I love drawing parallels. So with content, I think this is really important. I've tested and played with so many different formats. I mean, I was doing sketch comedy at one point. I was doing face to camera. I've done so many iterations. And recently, I thought to myself, I really want to be great at communication. I've got to place a restriction on my content, meaning I need to restrict what I can do so I can get better at it, if that makes sense. Because you learn when you're studying creativity that when you put perimeters around something, you actually can expand your creative thought. So, an example would be Twitter at first only had so many characters, so you had to be really creative with how you communicated. Instagram at one point was only images, so you had to be really creative with how you communicated. These folks put perimeters on stuff because if you come out of the gate with everything, sometimes you just get really watered. So content, I said, well, I'm going to sit in a chair and I'm not going to let myself move from this chair, and I got to come up with creative ways to tell a story by not moving, which is hard for me because I'm a fidgety girl. And it's just worked. It's worked really well adding restriction to my content. So if you feel all over the place, maybe
That's
limit yourself to one thing, and instead of being like, oh, I need more, think, no, I have enough. I'm going to go in really tight and you see what is birthed from that.
And as a person who has so many interests and
Mm-hmm.
so many things that I'm passionate about, I can be all over the place.
Sure.
And I always would say, well, I'm creative and it's okay if I'm scattered because that's part of the creative person, which I was
Yeah.
giving myself, I was
I've been there.
rationalizing
Mm-hmm.
really a lie. Because when I have everything in order, which is rare, but when I have everything in order and it's in its place, I'm decluttered, my mind just opens up and all the downloads come. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so counterintuitive because I've told myself, well, it's okay. I
Yeah.
can be all over the place.
Yeah. Man, I feel you. I'm the same way. I get it. I don't know if again it's a season in my life, but it's just like elimination, elimination, elimination. Get rid as much of, and this what gets hard is to your point, you end up getting rid of all this junk that you know isn't serving you. But then what happens when you most of your life is good? Like I enjoy doing this and I like this and this and this. And so now you're saying no to things that you actually like and enjoy. It's kind of like in fitness. You'll know this. You eliminate the soda, the junk food, whatever, whatever. That's great. And then if you want to go to quote the next level in fitness, then you start like getting really into the micro stuff that doesn't really matter for a lot of folks. But then
Mhm.
that's the next level of fitness. So if you think about it creatively, you can get rid of binge watching Netflix or over consuming alcohol or whatever your vice is. And then when you get into like, well, I like going to this event every Tuesday and I like this blog and I like over here doing this. And then you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to start saying no to some of the good stuff to
Mhm.
really get better at my craft. And that's where it gets tricky and hard, I think. But
No,
it's also, okay, I'm tricky and hard. Let me not be negative about it. It's also a gift because how cool is it that you get to that point where you love so many things? That's awesome.
right. No, it is. It is. And if I've learned anything as I've gotten older and what I want everyone to take away when they leave with being around me is that you can reframe anything.
Amen.
You can
Yeah.
reframe anything. There is something good. I heard somebody the other day say, life is either lessons or blessings.
Mm,
And
that's cute.
so,
They must have been Southern.
I know exactly. But I want people to know that, yeah, life is good.
Yes.
It's a blessing that we're here. And how can we be a blessing to someone else?
Yeah. Well, thank you really for the work you're doing. I want and hope more women step up and talk about. I won't even change the wording like aging, whatever that means, because it's nothing to be afraid of or dread. And I say it all the time to my husband. I'm like, I am really looking forward to being in that stage of my life.
You
I
don't care. You don't care what other people think
I can't
anymore.
wait for
It's
that.
amazing because I mean, I grew up and that's all that mattered was what does everybody else think? I'm sure you still want to be liked. Don't get me wrong. You've never ever arrived completely.
Right.
Not until the last day. So
Yeah.
for women my age, I think the biggest thing is we're changing. Our bodies are changing. It's like
Yeah.
the whole landscape is so different.
Yeah.
But I think that's how you see so much beauty in everything. You just start to appreciate everything.
So beautiful. I love that.
So I really love to end every podcast with the same question to each guest. This podcast is called the Honor It Podcast. So, what or whom are you choosing to honor today?
I'm going to say my Aunt Susan, who passed away, goodness, about 12 years ago. Um, she was that quote older woman in my life, and she wasn't related to me. So we just called her Aunt Susan because we wanted to be related to her so bad. She didn't have to befriend my sister and I. She didn't have to come to my house when I had started my period and teach me what that meant when I was like crying because I never knew that was going to happen to me. And she drove over and did that.
I love it.
She was the person that I called as a teenager and I could tell anything to. She's the person who confessed things to me that I'll take to my grave, and never tried to paint herself in this pretty perfect light. But she's somebody that I will respect forever. And I miss her so dearly. And I just thinking about this conversation with your role as an older woman, I don't know where I would be without her being that for me. And I think about how, even with that relationship, how hungry I still am, and probably will always be, to have that female figure in my life, especially when you didn't really grow up with that. And there's so many other young women who just need it so much, and they don't want you to be perfect. Please don't be. That would be repulsive to them. Like, they just want you to be honest and real, and they want you to love them.
Right.
That's it. And I think we can all do that.
Well, what a perfect note to end on, because I want this to be an encouragement, your interview on this show to be an encouragement to older women my age, that we can bless someone else. It is not over. We still have work to do. So
Tons.
I love that, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, it was so cool. I usually say I'm honored to be on. I always say that, but I am, man. I've told you before, honor is such a beautiful word, and I think it's so cool. It's your name.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, that completes our episode with Heather Parady. Until next time, remember, we are not promised tomorrow, so be present today. It's a gift, and take time to honor it all.